Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I have some brand new Christmas DIYs, so let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting.
DIY number one. All right, I have a bunch of items from the Dollar Tree. This was leftover from a Dollar Tree mop head that I used for another project a while back. This was a baby blanket from the Dollar Tree, also a scrap. I try to keep everything and use what I can. And then this actually is a pom-pom from the Dollar Tree. It was a pack of like a dozen or so. This is not Dollar Tree. This came in a Michael's grab box and I've had it in my stash for a while. Didn't know what to do with it. And this is a mini tree skirt for one of their little mini Christmas trees and a pair of black fuzzy socks. And then that is just a little wooden bead that I am going to paint with my peaches and cream paint marker. That's what that is. It's an Arteza paint marker. And I set that aside to dry. And now I'm going to work on the baby blanket. In hindsight, I wish that I had made this a little bit wider, but essentially I'm after a rectangular shaped piece of fabric here that I'm going to sew into a cylinder shape. So just trying to get an idea of the size that I'm going after. I don't have a pattern for this. I'm just kind of winging it, but I have a vision in my head as to what I want it to look like. So you can kind of see me thinking as I twiddle my little fingers there, but trying to get it all lined up and even. And in hindsight, again, I wish instead of cutting it this way, I had cut the bottom part off of it because I ended up making it a little skinnier and too tall. So at any rate, I've got my sewing machine out. I'm just going to run a seam right down the side of the rectangle that I had folded in half, create that cylindrical shape that I mentioned. And now I need a bottom for it also. So I'm trying to think of a circle that is going to be the right size and, well, I was going to say shape, but it's a circle. So I realized that the lid of my Mod Podge was a perfect fit, but then this other little container, which was much easier to work with, was about the same size, actually a little bit larger, which was perfect. So I traced around that with a pen, cut out my circle, and then I was ready to pin it all inside out into my little cylindrical shape here. So I'm just tucking it in there and just trying to get it all lined up so that I can sew this as well. So I'm going to pin this all along that edge, and then I will grab my sewing machine again and just very carefully sew along that little bit. So it's going to be, you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing. I've got to figure out my camera angles so that I can be better about showing you exactly what I'm doing. But if you do so, I'm sure you've got an idea of what I'm doing there. So pulled out my pins and I'm ready to flip it right side out. And then my next step was going to be to stuff this. So I grabbed my fiber fill and I did start to try to stuff it, and then realized that I really wanted to anchor it with something first. I wanted something that was going to put some weight in the bottom of it. So I pulled that out. I grabbed some of my glass beads. These are also from the Dollar Tree. Some people will use rice or beans. You can use whatever you have at hand. I just have a ton of these glass beads, and so that is what I opted to use. So I went ahead and stuffed it, and now I'm getting an idea of the shape of my my little body, and Sammy is hanging out with me here and sleeping and dreaming, so I apologize if you could hear him woofing. He's making really funny puppy noises, but at any rate, I went ahead and grabbed a bunch of strands of my mop head and gathered it up. I'd been trying to figure out how I was going to operate that. I opted for a rubber band, as you saw, just to try and keep it all together. And here I'm cutting off the top of that, which is why I was saying I wish that I had cut that original piece of fabric differently than I had. So I think next time I will opt on wider. just so my little gnome ends up being a little bit more rotund than a skinny little thing. But he's still super cute in the end. So just making sure that I've got it stuffed sufficiently and trying to figure out how I want to get this to come together. So I'm going to use a bunch of hot glue here, start to try to form the top of the body. I'm going to tuck that mop head down inside of there as well. And then I did go back in and apply more hot glue all around the base of my mop head, not just on the side that you're going to see me applying glue here. I did it underneath as well because I just want to make sure that this is going to come apart on me. So once I had that all set, I was ready to start on my hat. So I've got my tree skirt there that I'm going to work with, trying to figure out the size of the hat that I need to make. So I'm going to literally just wrap it around there and get a measurement that way. Excuse me. So where my thumb is, that's where I need to cut it. And I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do this, and ultimately decided to do it that way. So I am going to just cut right up along the edge there, and then I'll be flipping that inside out in a second and sewing that up as well. So here I've got it inside out. I will go ahead and pin that so it doesn't slide on me, and I'll grab my sewing machine and just run a seam right along that edge as well, and that's going to create my little hat, turning it right side out and just making sure that it fits on my little gnome. It was a little bit loose, but I would rather be a little loose than too tight. So now I've got my antlers, and I'm trying to figure out where I want them to live on the hat. If you haven't realized yet, I'm making a little reindeer gnome. So I'm going to put a little snip, a little notch right in that fabric there. And this worked out better than I expected. It didn't fray at all. It's, God, I want to call it sizing. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure. There's some sort of a backing to this that is, I know it's used in sewing, but I don't know what it's called. But it doesn't fray or, yeah, I don't know. It was very easy to work with. Let me put it that way. So I've got it positioned back up on the gnome, and I literally just took the pick part and tucked it down inside in the middle of the mop head piece, and so it was really very stable. It just went right down through the whole body of the gnome, so that was perfect. And now obviously I am stuffing my hat. I want to make sure that it's got enough support, just because those antlers do have a little bit of weight to them, and I don't want them to just be kind of floating there without some additional support, and making sure that the hat is going to keep its shape. So that I started applying the hot glue to the back there that you saw to make sure that it was secured. And now I'm going to pop his little nose in here with some more hot glue. Just get that where it needs to be. Adding a little bit more to the top of the hat. And then I'll add some hot glue to either side of his nose underneath the hat there to get that secured, and just make sure that it's kind of conforming to his little head and wrapping around his nose, as our lovable gnomes tend to do. Just got that all finalized. And now I'm ready to add the little pom-pom to the top of his hat. So added that with some hot glue as well. And then I wanted to make some little feet for him. So I folded over the sock so that I would have kind of a double situation going on there. I'll cut it in half again. And then I did cut one side of the socks as well, because right now I had like 2 tubes. I did cut one out so that I could then sew up 3 sides and have the short side be the open side, which I am filling up with some additional glass beads. These are going to be, I think I said this already, these are going to be his feet. So I want there to be some weight to these as well. And then as you saw, I added some more fiber fill. I sewed up the tops of his little feet, and I'm going to be adhering them to his underside here. So I trimmed off a little bit of the excess sock. I didn't do it at first because I wanted to see how much of it I needed. And once I had a gauge for that, I went ahead and trimmed some of it off. got him positioned the way I wanted him, then added a whole bunch of hot glue that I sat his little hiney down on and got him all situated. I did find that he was a little bit wobbly. He needed a little bit more support under his hindquarters there. So I ended up adding a couple of extra glass beads here. So you see me tucking them kind of in to underneath the fabric area. There was a space for that, and just added some hot glue, and then I'm going to apply some additional sock. So I just cut out another little piece of sock and applied that right over, and because they're fuzzy, it like blends all together, and it looked really, really good actually. And then I decided I wanted to separate all of the strands of the mop head to create a fluffier little beard for this guy. And I gave it a trim along the bottom. Now, in hindsight, he's super cute, but I do wish that I had trimmed his beard up a little bit more, made it look more like a beard, and so that you could maybe see his body more. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. DIY number 2. Okay, this is a cutout from the Dollar Tree. It is wood, and obviously it's a snowflake. I'm going to be using my antique wax on this with a baby wipe, and I'm just going to give it a good coat on both sides, and so that it's nice and stained. And then once that is dry, I'm going to grab, I think it's technically a clothesline. I'm not sure. I think I'd gotten it at Habitat for Humanity Restore, and it was only like $1 or $2 for this really big spool. So obviously I'm getting towards the end of what I have of this. I've used it for a lot of different projects, but just wanted to make sure that I had enough for what I was intending here. And I do have another ball of it that I had used for an attempt on another project that didn't come to fruition, so I just have that excess there. But after my gnome, I had a bunch of fuzzies, black fuzzies from my socks on my hot glue gun, so I was just trying to get that cleaned up a little bit there. But because I don't want to be depositing black fuzz onto my snowflake. So just getting the end of the cord nice and clean, and so it's not frayed. And I'm going to add some hot glue there and just seal it, because I don't want it to start unraveling essentially. So I wanted to make sure that I had that ready and good to go, and then I will start applying it to my snowflake. So I'm going to just draw a bead of glue just inside the edge of the wood cutout. I don't want to go all the way to the edge. I do want to be able to see some of that wood on the other side of the cord. So I'm just leaving a little bit of a gap there. And just pretty much trying to form the cord around. Now, I could have used a more narrow cord, but I felt like with the hot glue, I needed something that was going to be a little thicker, because I didn't want a lot of the hot glue to be showing. And if I'd used something thinner, the nozzle on my hot glue just isn't small enough that I wouldn't be able to put. It was going to be too much glue. You could also use yarn for this. It doesn't have to be a heavy cord like this, but I really like the way this looks. This might be a little heavier than a macrame cord if I had to guess, but I'm not 100% certain, because I don't know if I've actually ever worked with a real macrame cord. But I was pleasantly surprised at how well this turned out. I have to be honest. At first, I was wondering if I was going to regret trying to decorate the snowflake this way. I would 100% do it again in a heartbeat, because I think it came out so super cute. So again, just going to try and figure out what kind of a pattern. I'm making this up as I go here, y'all. I knew that I wanted to decorate it with the cord. I just wasn't sure how I wanted it decorated with the cord. So this was all really kind of made up as I went. But as I got the hang of it, it went faster and faster. And I realized, okay, I can just kind of draw a bead of glue and then just go ahead and apply my cord down right over that bead of glue that I'm applying. So once I had that all down, I just figured out where my end needed to match up. I got it as close as I could. I'm trying my best to camouflage the ends of the cord so that it's not super obvious where the seams are, so to speak. I mean, obviously, if you look for them, you're going to find them on this project, but I did my best to try to hide them as much as possible and get them all matched up. So that was my second row. And now for the middle, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do here. And then ultimately I thought, oh, maybe it would be nice just to do a bunch of cords kind of like crisscrossing in the middle and knotting the ends and just kind of filling in that space with something that looks like a little bit of a snowflake in and of itself. So that was what I did, and I trimmed those ends down so that it fits nice and neatly in the center area, and then I just secured it with a drop of hot glue for each knot. And that was all that I did for this one. I think it is so pretty. One more drop of glue. And this is done except for the hanger, which we will do in just a moment. I thought about using a piece of the cord for the hanger and then ultimately decided I was going to use the twine that it came with originally. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently the way that it was originally on there. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that knot back in it before I put it on the project. And I'm going to run it from front to back and allow that little knot to serve as the stop to keep it from going all the way through. So then I'm also going to make sure that the knot is nice and tight and trim off the excess. So there's literally just a knot there. And to give it some more support so that the knot doesn't come undone, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue. I started to do it from the front and then realized I needed to do it from the back. So just making sure that that's there. And I'm pulling it a little bit taut, but not so much so that I risk pulling the knot through the project. And that is it for this one. I think this is really super sweet. I hope you like it too, but let me know what you think as I show you the end result here hanging on my wall. DIY number 3. Okay, I have a Dollar Tree sign from fall and a Dollar Tree calendar. I am going to be pulling out the Joy design here for December. I think it is absolutely beautiful, and I'm going to be working with the back side of the sign. I figured, you know what? I can make it a double-sided sign because the fall sign is actually pretty cute. So it can be fall, and then when we hit the holiday season, we can just flip it around and make it joy for the Christmas holidays. So I've got my Mod Podge here. I'm going to give my sign a good coat of the Mod Podge, then I'm going to help it dry. Once it is dry completely, I am going to go ahead and get my little Easy Press mini ready to go, and I'm going to line up my image on the back of the sign. Now it is completely dry, so it is not going to stick, but I am just going to get it prepared. I'm going to grab out a piece of parchment paper and get ready for when my Easy Press, is all heated up. So now that it's heated, I'm going to give it a good press. And I have to say, this is my favorite way of applying paper products, I'll say, to other surfaces with Mod Podge. I do not remember who it was that shared this tip with me. I know that it was one of you guys, but I am so thrilled that it works as well as it does. I was skeptical at first because I couldn't imagine that ironing on dry Mod Podge would actually make it stick, but it works so well and it doesn't wrinkle the way it does when it's wet. I love it. Absolutely love it. So now I have these little mini pine cones that I'd gotten from Temu, and I thought, well, maybe I could drop a couple of them on the surface. The design itself has little pine cones in it, and I thought, well, maybe I can make it three-dimensional. And looking at it here on the screen as I'm editing the video, it looks actually super cute. I wasn't really thrilled with it in person, though. When I was trying to work with it, there was something about it that just wasn't working for me. So I abandoned that idea. Not 100%. I was still trying to think in the back of my mind about what I could do to make the design pop a little bit. But in the meantime, I grabbed out this lace ribbon. I believe this is from the Dollar Tree. And I am just trying to find a way to edge this. I want to finish off the edges. I want to hide that little hole in the design at the top from the calendar page. But I also love the cranberry shade, or the deep red shade, the crimson shade that's framing the picture. So I liked the idea of this lace ribbon because of the little holes in it. You'll be able to see the red through those little holes because I'm going to line it up so that it kind of flows over that area of the ribbon. Hopefully I'm making sense. Excuse me. But cutting the ribbon at an angle and just getting that prepared so that I can kind of create the semblance of a frame. And once I figured out how long I needed it to be, I went ahead and trimmed it on that other side as well, just making sure that it was cut at an angle. And I was being careful to do it at the right angle because the first time I cut it, you might have noticed that I had done it the wrong way, so I had to fix it. But I also checked to make sure all of the sides were of equal length, and they were. So just using my little sanding block to just trim off the edges because there was maybe like a millimeter hanging over on some of the edges. Cut the rest of my ribbon to fit. And then I was ready to apply it to the design. I'm just using a thin little layer of hot glue and setting down the ribbon and working my way all the way around the picture. I did have to trim off a little bit of the ribbon in some places, but that was perfectly fine because I was able to kind of go over it with each additional piece of the ribbon to make it line up and look like it was nicely framed. So once I had that all done, I was ready for the next idea. So, and I did actually enjoy and like this idea for making that design pop a little bit. I'm just creating, and I don't know if this is jute cord or if it's just a heavy twine. It might just be a heavy twine, but just created tire shoelace bows, simple little bows, 3 of them to kind of make that pop. There are little bows in the design there. I'm not sure if you can see it on the picture itself, but just used a teeny little dot of hot glue to pop on the 3D bows, and then the picture of the bow can just serve as like a shadow. So then on the back side, I'm going to create a hanger, and I am applying the ends of the ribbon right over the original holes from where the original hanger for the sign was, to kind of camouflage that and just get this all situated. And then I'm going to create little teeny bows to cover up the ends of the hanger that I've just applied to this side, make it nice and cute here. So using a little bit of the twine again around that little loop of the lace ribbon. And then I was debating whether I wanted to keep those as tails for the ribbon and make it little, look super cute like that. And I didn't like the way that it looked. So I trimmed those off, and I just made sure that that knot was secure and used a little bit of hot glue on that knot and adhered it right over top of the end of the ribbon. And then I did the same thing with the other side. And then this was all done. Let me know what you think of this one. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Rose has been busy again. Look at these amazing projects. Super sweet. Thank you for sharing. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, I have some more supplies from the Dollar Tree, that little Mary sign, and then these little wooden squares. I was debating which I wanted to use. So in the meantime, I got these 2 frames, and here I'm like, ooh, what else could I do with these? I was thinking, oh, I've got 4 of them in my stash. Maybe I can make a cross. But I digress. So I'm just trying to figure out whether I want to use that Mary sign as a base or the wooden little wooden square. The square was just a little too small, so I ended up setting that aside. But in the meantime, I'm using my pliers to pull out the anchors for the back of the frame. Now, if you want to use the back of the frame, you don't want to pull those out. You just bend them up, pull out the back, put in your photo, and then put everything back together again. But I am not interested in using the backs of these for this project, and I don't want those little tabs in there, so that's why I'm pulling them out. And they come out really pretty easily if you just kind of wiggle them a little. They really just pull right out. So once I had that done, I am ready to secure my glass into the frame. So I'm just going to run a bead of hot glue inside the ledge, along that lip that holds the glass, and just making sure that I've got a little bit all the way around, but not too much because I don't want it to ooze out all over everything, and tucked my glass down in there. And then that's going to cool almost instantly with the glass for whatever reason. I guess because it pulls more of the cooler air out of I don't know. I always find glass and metals, they are always cooler than other materials. But once I had this all set, I am ready to adhere my frames to the base. Now, you can certainly paint the base. I considered painting it, but I thought it was such a pretty design. It has the buffalo check along the edges of it. It's got the Mary on the top of it there. I opted to leave it. And I decided I was going to lean into the red and black theme as far as the rest of the project went. So I'm just getting my frames lined up. I'm making sure that they are, my goodness, what is the word I'm looking for? Flush with the sides of the base. And then I was ready to go ahead and create something for the top of it. So I'm going to go into my stash and grab out my tongue depressors. I mean, they call them paint stirrers, but they're like tongue depressors, or maybe they're a little bit larger than tongue depressors. But I'm going to be using these to create a little bit of a roof to make kind of a lantern / little house situation. Now, I thought about using my antique wax for this, but again, I decided I wanted to lean into the black and red. So I'm using a baby wipe to as opposed to whitewashing, I'm blackwashing this. I don't know if that's really the term, but it's the same kind of idea. I'm really just staining these with the black chalk paint using a baby wipe. So the baby wipe just helps to thin out that paint and just helps it create like a stain. And they dry super quick also. So once I had all of those done, I am going to go ahead and start applying them with my hot glue. Just get that lined up. A little bit goes a long way with this. And then I will layer them. So I'm overlapping them just slightly. So I definitely want to start at the bottom, work my way up to the top, overlapping each of them as I go. I thought I was going to need 6 on each side. I ended up only needing 5. I could have done 6 if I had overlapped them a little bit more, but it's just the way that it worked out. So once I had them done, and I did this on the other side as well, but I did go in and just add a little bit of extra hot glue along the edge there so that it was just given a little bit more support. So now along the top, I have some picks from my stash that I am going to go ahead and apply to the top. Here I've got my red berries with the greenery. It has little flakes of snow in it, which were falling on my roof, and I thought that it actually added something really sweet. It clearly is going to be able to just be brushed off at some point, but I left it on there for the time being. And then I had that buffalo check red and black flower with the gold. It was perfect. It was like it was made to go with that Mary sign. So tuck that on there, and that is it for this one. Let me know what you think.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the projects, please remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.